Clear. Point him out. There he is, Max Lederman. Emmy's on one side, Robert Williams on the other. The Time Lord. Dropped a nice. I'll do a humble brag of my own here. I dropped a nice Time Lord feature a few weeks ago, ahead of this NBA season, and we are live here on Dome Theory. Max Lederman,
Bob, Bobby,
NBC Sports Boston.
I missed your Time Lord piece, so you better retweet it out there so I can read it.
I'll fire it out right now. Make sure all the people get it too over on Boston Sports Journal. Max, of course, producer, NBC Sports Boston, but a Philadelphia fan as well. If you caught the last time he was here on Dome Theory, we talked about that whole experience. It was probably like the stuff that happened 1 year ago, Max, it's so weird that it was 1 year ago because, like, if you flip the calendar back 12 months, it was the Eastern Conference Finals, Heat Celtics. The bubble was still in full swing, and now we're past another NBA Finals into training camp here, which is just the weirdest lineup ever. But we were talking after that Philly Celtics sweep that feels like a million years ago, but actually wasn't that long ago, about this change in an era in Philadelphia and all the things that have gone wrong up to that point. And then ultimately they got Doc, they got the 1 seed, and things look like it flipped back pretty fast off that sweep that Ben Simmons is actually not a part of. So we
Right.
flip it back 1 year ago. Ben Simmons is kind of that X factor in Philadelphia that they were missing, that without him, you couldn't compete with the Celtics in a playoff series, even win a game. And now 1 year later, Brett Brown is gone. That was like the big flip last year. And now Ben Simmons is going to be gone, which like every single year, there just seems to be this seismic change, this 180 in Philadelphia. And this one feels big enough to really be an end of an era here, like really take Philadelphia out of contention if this goes badly enough. But I was asking you before we came on what the feel is in your group chats in Philadelphia, just down around that team when you're talking to your friends, kind of, the way anybody would around the Celtics here. Is it chaos? Is it freaking out? Do you guys think there's some light at the end of the tunnel? Where are you at?
I think everyone just wants to get rid of Ben. They're just like, just get out of here. It's
Just dump them?
just dumb, and it's complicated with Ben because Philly gets a reputation as being hard on players and stuff, but with him it was like clear that it was like some sort of like a mental issue with him about not shooting threes and everything. I feel like he got like a lot of a pass, like he really did with the 3-point shooting because he was good, he was really good, and the Sixers were bad for so many years to get Joel and to get him. I mean, that was the whole Hinkie plan. It was like, look, you're going to get an Okafor in there, but that's why we got to be bad for several years. So they get multiple, swings at getting those franchise players. He's got two. The Colangelo era, God, what I mean, you forgot. I completely forgot about that for a
So
while.
who
But
actually drafted Ben? It was Colangelo?
it was
Who was that?
Colangelo, but
Yeah.
I mean, they were on their way to the. Who knows what would have happened? But I mean, there's no way. I'm pretty sure Hinkie would have taken Ben as well. I mean, transcendent talent. He shot threes even though he didn't shoot them well, or a lot of them. In summer league he was shooting threes and hitting mid rangers, and he something just went backwards with him. And then you had the Fultz thing that happened where he forgot how to shoot when he got to the Sixers too. Just a real. It does. I hate it when people say this about the Sixers, but it does feel a little bit like, the basketball gods just don't want them to succeed because of the way that they got those players, all the tanking and stuff like that. But I've always said, like, look, at least they weren't lying to their fans about it. They're like, look, we're going to be bad. They
Yeah.
just got really bad players, and they didn't try to sell tickets and sell hope or anything. They're like, no, we're selling bad.
So it's interesting now when you look back at all these guys, because obviously Okafor just got cut by Brooklyn, probably done in this league. Someone might have just picked him up, actually. I don't remember. But anyway,
I think
he's
he
in
went to the
flux.
Hawks.
Yeah. So he was probably just a bad player that wasn't going to work in this league anyway, the way it is going now. Noel has figured things out, carved out a solid career, not as like a top end talent, but as a pretty good role player. I think he had the best defensive rating in the league last year with the Knicks there. So he got paid. Fultz was figuring it out down in Orlando before the big ACL tear. And then even some minor guys like Trey Burke came through Philadelphia as a point guard option, left, and then had a pretty good stint there with, I think it was Dallas. And, just a number of different guys have come through there, younger players. Zaire Smith was obviously hurt.
Yeah, but
Thinking of who else.
he
I mean,
sucks.
Embiid was obvious.
They drafted what's his name? Markel what's his name? Why am I spacing on his name? The kid from Villanova who's on the Suns.
Mikal Bridges. Then they
Yeah,
traded
Mikal
him.
Bridges. They drafted him and then traded him with or they traded him for Zaire Smith and another pick that they ended up trading in the Tobias Harris
And
deal.
Mikal
So it was like
Bridges is
they had
really
his
good.
mom works for the Sixers.
Mm-hmm.
His mom literally works for the Sixers or for their ownership. And he was like all excited, Villanova kid. And then they're like, oh, by the way, we traded you for a player that's terrible.
Everyone was wondering at the time what they were doing there too, just because Bridges was awesome. Bridges was awesome at Villanova. He was part of those championship teams there. Great defender, could shoot coming in. Brought a lot of what they needed. And then let's not even talk about the fact that they could have had Jason Tatum.
Yeah, I won't go that far. A lot of people,
Yeah.
my friends say that all the time in the Sixers chat. They're like, oh, we could have Tatum. Like, Danny would never have made the deal if there was a chance that he wasn't getting Tatum. He would have just kept the first pick. Like, that was that's been made clear to me, on several different levels. Like, it's true in theory. Yes, the Sixers they could have after making the trade selected Jason Tatum, but
Yeah.
obviously.
Or if they stayed at 3, well, no, because the Celtics would have taken him 1 if you believe him. But yeah, they probably wouldn't have had a shot at him if it wasn't clear that they were going the false direction. Because it does seem like the Celtics were all in on Tatum, and they had the number 1 pick to begin with. So,
because what the Celtics, real quickly, what the Celtics do or did, which was different than what the Sixers did, is they cared about like the kind of person you were. Like when you're drafting that high, you're not like draft like good people.
So
like
that's
Jaylen
where it
Brown.
began with Ben, right? Because everybody in that draft class was talking about him leaving LSU, which I hate. They did that with Jalen Johnson this year too. He left Duke, and they're like, oh, there's some character concerns there. We'll see if it plays out with him too. The bigger concern, I think, with Ben at LSU was that they weren't good. They were a terrible team. They didn't win. He played well, but wasn't really impacting winning there all that much. And just his sense of urgency for succeeding with that team didn't seem all that high. And a lot of people talked about it at the time, but they're like, transcendent talent. And then it hit right away. He came out, won that Rookie of the Year after missing the first season. And,
he was Magic Johnson. He was literally Magic Johnson, Oscar Robertson. He was having his historical numbers for his first 2 years in the league. And he didn't want to go to college. The reason that I gave him a pass for, what happened at LSU was that, you watch the documentary about him during that year at LSU. He made it very clear. It's like, I didn't grow up dreaming about the NCAA when I was living in Australia. Like, we don't care about that here. It's like, I want to play in the NBA. It's like, that's all I want to do. And the only reason he had to go to college is because he wanted to get better training in high school. So he moved to Florida. If he had just stayed in Australia, he could have been drafted right out of high school. But he went to to high school in Florida, so he had to go to the NCAA. And so he was just like, I don't care about class. I don't care about really being in the NCAA. I just want to be in the NBA. So that's what I gave him a little bit of a pass for that. But look, the issue is that he doesn't want to get better. Like, he's gotten better at defense, but a lot of that I feel like is just he's just gotten smarter because he's playing more.
Better personnel around him too. I mean, he's got Joel. He's got Harris is a good defender there. They've gotten better at the guard spots in that regard. They just have a lot of Danny Green coming in. They just have great personnel to play great team defense. Thibault's been phenomenal on that end. So obviously they got the pieces to be all worldly on that end after they were pretty terrible in that 2020 campaign with Horford in there and them trying to mix and match that thing, which is another move that we can talk about, the Butler-Horford trade-off when that ended up happening. But, Josh Richardson coming in, just so many different moves that you can look back on there. But where did it go wrong for Ben? That's what I'm trying to highlight right here, because this didn't go wrong when Doc threw him under the bus. This didn't go wrong in the playoff series in Atlanta, or when he got hurt against Boston the year before. This was years and years and years in the making. We've been talking about his issues in terms of fitting with Joel for a number of years. And then it obviously goes back to the shot from day one. That's I can't even remember. What was it, 2018, that series with Boston then, when that he can't shoot threes.
Brad explosion.
Yeah.
Brad was one of the first coaches that really took it to an extreme, and it may have even been in the regular season. I remember, because I watch as many of the Sixers games as I can. If I know that they lose, I don't watch the recording, but so I watch a lot of the good games. But Brad was the first one to just completely sag off him. That's where you got the screen grab with the shirt that says "Shoot a three, coward." And then he also fouled him a lot on purpose to put him on the line.
The other one was when coronavirus started. They said, "Stay this far away." They showed that screenshot.
Yeah, it's really good, really good. I mean, great memes. When he scored 1 point in the playoffs, the Photoshop
with the 1.
The 100, it's 1. That's
What
phenomenal.
game was that?
It's great work.
Was that the Boston series?
It was the Boston series. Yep.
Yeah.
I picked the Sixers to win that year. I was like, I watched both these teams. I mean, the Sixers should win, but the experience. Because you also remember that the Celtics didn't have Kyrie and Hayward, so that's why I was like, I mean, the Sixers team should beat them, and they didn't. And part of it was because Ben, he just gets real afraid. He's afraid, and it's hard, especially when your opponents know that about you, to succeed in the playoffs when you're scared. You're scared of the moment, and what really bothers me is that he's consistently shown that fear to fail in the regular season too when it comes to shooting. It's just like he's so afraid of missing that he just won't take the shot. It's like, man.
And the playoffs are the problem, right? Because this works during the regular season. They were great in 18. They were, solid in 20, but Horford was really the wrinkle there that threw everything off, just how badly he fit there and how quickly he declined. And then they figure that out, get the shooters in there. Joel and Ben's numbers are pretty good together during the year. They're the 1 seed. And everything kind of works out through the flow of a season. Their defensive team, he fits that. Joel fits that. And then come playoff time, just something breaks down. Like the pressure of that moment, just how much more half court it's played. Because he's great in transition. More of a half court game in the playoffs. And then when things get tight in the paint and stuff like that too, like the decision making for him just gets a little bit harder. It seems like in those spots,
because he's just he's scared of getting fouled because he's a bad free throw shooter. Like that to me is inexcusable. The free throws, I'm sorry, you're not.
And it got so much worse this year. It's like Mitchell off the back of the rim and it bounces right back.
And I go back to what Kevin O'Connor said, and Kevin O'Connor told me this when he was working at NBC Sports Boston before he went to the Ringer, and our desks were like right across from each other. We used to talk all the time. And the year that Ben Simmons was at LSU, he was like, I was like, oh man, the Sixers, I want them to get Ben Simmons. And he said, he's like, he's not a good fit with Joel because he can't shoot. And then he's like, and he told me, he's like, I'm working on this thing. I want to talk to a couple more scouts before I publish it, but I think he shoots with the wrong hand. And he started that whole entire thing. And it really is true. It looks like he's shooting like a right-handed shot, but with his left hand. Like his arms are just in the wrong spot. Like if you were shooting right-handed, that would be the right placement of your arms. It's crazy. And the red flag for me was like 2 or 3 years ago when he got his brother to be his shooting coach. I'm just like, so like, Fultz went to Drew Hanlon. That was a disaster, but like he's got a pretty good track record with, Tatum, Joel Embiid, even Shemi got better going there. A lot of great players, or a lot of players have improved going to someone like Drew Hanlon. But no, Ben decided to choose his brother. There's no accountability in that situation there. There's no one that can, really grind you and say, look, this is the way you got to do it or else get out of here. He's never taken it serious.
And Brett Brown was begging him to shoot all those years. Take one a game. He was saying it over and over again. He was saying it in public settings. There was almost this back and forth between them of whether he needed to do it or not. You go through the numbers. I think he shot 10 last year. Year before that, 7, 6 in 2019. And then that rookie year, he was 0 for 11. He didn't end up hitting one till 2019, 2020.
Yeah, a lot of those
went
were
crazy.
Heaves too.
Yeah.
A lot of those were heaves, those 11 rookie year. I mean, it's you just, unless you're a center, you just can't operate that way. It's just not how it works. The game doesn't work like that.
How did his kind of usage in Philly progress? Because he was mostly the point guard there. They tried that little stretch of 4, I think, in 2020. felt like he could have been a center much of the time, but obviously Embiid's there, so the opportunity was
And
just never there for
to
him to
me,
do that.
that's like one of those, like, in theory, yeah, he'd be a great small ball five, but I doubt he wants to do that. He doesn't want to he doesn't want to dunk over Trae Young
And we'll
in
get to
game
that,
7
yeah.
in the fourth quarter. He's not going to want to, play center and actually have to, like, go up against big bodies. And, he can get thrown around. He's a great defender, but he's not super heavy. So I could see him getting really worked down there. And I don't think he's got the desire to do it. But he was mostly a point guard, really, since his first summer league game. He was running the show. Whatever position he really was. I mean, he was bringing the ball up. He was setting up the offense, stuff like that. And then, because when he wasn't doing that, he's literally worthless. I mean, no, he's not catching lobs. He's not a
the
threat.
dunker spot when he's standing there, it's just
clogging everything up. It's brutal. It's brutal to watch.
It's like he doesn't even want to be out there.
You see these special moments with him, and you're like, and that's where the hurt really comes in as a Sixers fan. Is like, we just wanted you to be good. Like we wanted nothing more than for you to succeed and win a championship and get your number up in the rafters with Joel. But the refusal to do anything but look good on Instagram in the summer, with these highly edited workout videos where it's like the shot goes up, there's a cut, and then the ball goes in. And it's like, come on, you're not tricking us anymore. And the fact that they put one out this summer, it's like the lack of self-awareness. Like, how do you not know that you're just going to get scorched for that? And then the trade request, it's like, I was telling some coworkers, I was like, it's like when my girlfriend in 9th grade dumped me, and I told everyone, I was going to dump her anyway. I didn't like her. I was really upset. I actually was not going to dump her. I was lying because I was a small child and immature. It's like, yes, you're requesting the trade when everyone's made it clear that you're getting traded. So I don't know. It's a mess, and it's
I thought
sad.
they traded him in previous offseason. In fact, after last playoff, when they got knocked out round 1, seemed like a shakeup was needed there. The Harden-Simmons thing seems so obvious. Simmons is the best player you could have gotten back in Houston if you're them. Just a great place for him to kind of restart, have freedom, and build around if you're them. They wanted picks, I guess, and we saw how stupidly they ran that. I can't even put that on Philly because they traded Harden in Houston.
And I don't think it was a choice. I really don't. And I know, there's been a lot of stuff out there about how, Daryl wouldn't put Tyrese Maxey in the. Shut up. Come on. There's no way that's true. I love Tyrese Maxey, and if he lasts the summer, if training camp starts, he's not traded, I will be purchasing.
I think it was the picks. Jersey. I don't think they were getting 7 picks from Philly.
I don't think Houston wanted to do it. I don't think the owner was going to be cool with we'll just send our franchise player to the GM that just left and went to the other.
That's part of it too. Yeah.
I just don't think that was realistic because I have so much respect for Daryl Morey, and that's the one saving grace of all this. It's like, I know he's getting clowned for like those absurd, proposals to teams that are out there, but
that's the only way you can salvage it.
Here, and it's not Brett Brown and Elton Brand running things, because that would be a real mess. They would have traded him for, Larry Nance Jr. or something.
Well, speaking of how this could go full circle, you got Westbrook for Wall, Harden goes out, Olynyk and Bradley ends up being the return, and Exum in the end there. 7 picks they get from Brooklyn. We'll see where that goes, but just a disaster on that Harden front. And then they kind of left with Wall and all that stuff there, a bunch of picks. Now I saw someone throw it out there, John Wall to Philly, Simmons back to Houston. It'd be so funny if Harden couldn't get them Simmons, but John Wall now after his
no way. I mean, what?
You'd probably have to end your Philadelphia.
Yeah,
you'd have to end your
history.
You'd have to end your fandom if that happened.
Well, you just there's no way. I mean, Daryl, I think, would be like, all right, I'll just take CJ McCollum and Covington over. I'd rather players that can function and won't destroy your cap situation. I mean, he's making like $50 million for 2 more years.
Doesn't seem like CJ's in play, and I know the dream's Lillard, which isn't going to happen either. But I don't even think CJ's in play. I don't think Portland wants to move him. I think there's just so much uncertainty with Simmons. Did he reach rock bottom? Is there any coming back from this? I think it's so, and this is kind of my next question for you. We understand Philly's thinking. They want to get maximum return for him because he at one point was this awesome asset, and this is the last chance to cash in on him. Even though he's hit that bottom, it's more worth it to hold out and just kind of drag this out and get the best possible return instead of rushing. I understand that from his perspective, holding out, that's I guess his chance to just kind of rid himself of this situation and ramp up the pressure on Philly to get it done quicker because he just wants to go anywhere. I'm stunned at how quiet it's been around the league. Obviously, we hear a lot out of Minnesota. They want him for the right price. Portland,
It's
it was
GM now. They don't
yeah.
even have a GM.
I know that was a weird new layer to this whole saga. This is like the craziest late offseason into training camp we've ever seen. Portland was a hot name early on. Now we got that little Houston. Simmons put Wall on his Instagram, but really, like, it's just dead silence on his front. And you would think if someone really liked Simmons and just thought it was a one-off weird playoff run, weird season, they'd pay what they normally would to get him anyway, and this would just kind of be done. But it doesn't seem like anybody in the league, like even Sacramento, they've been terrible for years. They're on this massive playoff drought, and they have this chance probably to get him for a reasonable price. Halliburton maybe. Like you could probably get something done there, and it's just not happening.
I think that's the deal that's going to happen is Sacramento. That seems the most likely to me is like I don't know what, I think the holdup is that I think Daryl is dragging his feet because he wants Lillard or to, Beal's not happening, but, he just, because he doesn't want, I'm sure there's offers out there for lots of picks and stuff, but he's like, I want players. I want a better fit with Joel. Like you can get a lesser player who can make your team better because they fit better with your pieces that are already there. And I think Sacramento offers that if you get Buddy Hield, and if you could get like Halliburton or even Davion Mitchell looked awesome in Summer League. I know it's just Summer League, but geez. I mean, he made Peyton Pritchard look like me playing in Rec League. It was like, that was really impressive. And, I don't need like some sort of stud defensive point guard because you're trading Ben. I just want a point guard that'll shoot threes. Or just a guard in general or a scorer that, I don't think you're going to get the second star unless you're getting, unless you're holding out for a Dame of some sort. But even if Dame does just randomly tomorrow wake up and say, I want out of here, Portland may not want Ben Simmons. But the thing is he's got those 4 years left. So I think that's where a team like Portland or a team like Minnesota, excuse me, or even a team like Sacramento, who doesn't get these big fish in free agency, can get a guy who's locked up, who's got star potential, or is already a defensive star. He was third team All NBA 2 years ago. Like he's a good player, especially in the regular season. And there's a world where he gets his head screwed on better. Leaving Philly. Doesn't have to. He can kind of put this chapter behind him.
In a place like Sacramento, I always thought Houston, Sacramento, Orlando, something like that would be the best bet. Toronto's my favorite, just because of the developmental program there. I'd like to see him kind of restart.
That's scary
that
as a Sixers fan because I feel like he would come back and bite them. If he went to Toronto, he would turn into like Kawhi.
And you probably don't want Siakam, do you?
I take him. At this point, it's like
it's asset.
Get a deal,
yeah.
Get something. Siakam was disappointing last year, but again, I think he was miscast as a.
He could shoot next to Joel.
Yeah, they're from the same country. They think they're friends. So I think he would be.
I love that trade. That's someone I want to see happen. I want to see Ben in Toronto.
They would make him so good. I know it.
He'd be so good so fast. And then they got the new guy there who's kind of in that Simmons mold too. Keep forgetting his name, the new rookie.
Scotty Barnes.
Yeah. It'd just be length everywhere, defenders everywhere. It'd be so much fun watching Toronto. But where does this leave Philly now? So this is probably, I don't know, is this going to go into the regular season? Because he's going to skip camp. It's $1 million or whatever in fines. It's pretty capped by the CBA. So he'll skip the camp. They'll go to the regular season. And then is he going to start missing game checks? I know that the salary he has is massive. I know there's probably some way to recoup off the court and deal with that if you're him. But this is going to be interesting if this goes into the regular season. And, can Philly survive without him?
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll be okay without him. Again, you got to get development from Maxi, who I
Maxi,
just
so huge. When that erroneous report came out that Maxi was out too, that's when it was like, oh no, the house is falling.
that hurt, man. That hurt real bad.
But that didn't end
Thankfully
up
that
being true. Yeah.
right, but if he takes a bit of a leap, which I think he will, because he really just seemed like a good character kid and great finisher. Seems to, it kind of seemed like he was just trying to find his way on a veteran team last year. And I think, it comes in with a little more confidence this year. He's going to be great. I think they'll be able to survive.
Harris was pretty good last year. Yeah.
Yeah,
He'll have to be
Tobias
that
was a
number
good
two.
player. And, they've got shooters. They got Danny Green. They got Seth Curry. They'll survive.
Seth was
They
the
won't
real number
compete
two
for
in
a
the
title.
playoffs.
What?
I said Seth was the real number two in the playoffs.
He was great, but the problem is that he was getting scorched on the other end because he was gassed. He was absolutely gassed, and it was really obvious. And I thought Doc kept him in too long.
Yeah, I love
I can't
that
remember
trade.
which
That was
game
a
it
great
was.
trade. But
That was a really good trade. That's why I have confidence in Daryl figuring it out. But look, Ben's going to lose like half of his salary, and I know that's a lot of money, that he's still going to make. But that's putting like $17 million in fine. Like that is so much money, and I do think that the league behind the scenes is going to pressure the Sixers to kind of hold firm, because they can't have this be a precedent that they set where players with 4 years left are refusing to show up just because.
so did you see the ESPN story last week? Because it rang a lot of bells in my head. Bobby Marks wrote that free agency in essence for stars is over. Guys have signed their extensions. They're locked in long term. You look at the next few free agent classes, stars are really off the market, and they're taking that Harden route. Grab the massive extension. Looks like Bradley Beal's probably going to do this from what I've heard. Take the massive extension and then go from there. If you need to leave, you'll be able to do it. If you need to request a trade, if you want to go to certain locations, you're going to be able to carve that out. And that seems to be the next player league struggle, is whether that's going to be allowed. And this is kind of a landmark moment in it. You got Simmons, who signed through 2023, I believe, 2024. And, he's basically going to get what he wants here, it seems, unless they just string this out and try to take all of his salary and
Well,
really make this a nasty war.
it's different because it's not just like Simmons just deciding, all right, I'm out of here. The Sixers have been trying to trade him, so it's not like it's.
So why do you think Doc went
unprovoked.
on ESPN and was like, "We want him back"? I'm
Because
sorry.
it hurts their leverage even more. It hurts their
Yeah.
leverage even more. And look, I would rather have him than not. Like I would rather have him there because, like I was just saying, like they'll survive without him, but they're not going to contend, and they're not going to be as good as they could be if they just have that a max player, a star player, just not there for nothing. So I think, I would rather have him because I would love to just see, it'd be great. It's going to suck for him the first week or so. Every free throw he misses, he's going to get crushed. But it would be great if he improved. If he came in and he took some threes and he, was shooting 70% from the line. But
I want to see
I
him
would
on
not bet a
Australia.
single dime that he's going to be better. He doesn't seem like the kind of person. And the contrast for me, what I always tell people is that, I've watched Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown every single summer, especially someone like Jaylen, really, really focus on the things that they were bad at and come in and make it like a strength. Like every single year, just build and build and build. Oh, I'm not a great free throw shooter. Jaylen Brown's a good free throw shooter now. I'm not really, my touch is kind of off inside. Touch with both hands now, Jaylen has. And obviously Tatum was, you saw more of a path for him when he was a rookie, but just seeing those guys and how much better they've gotten. And then you see Ben Simmons, the exact same player he was his first minute in the NBA.
Yeah,
It
and you
just
hear the
shows.
satisfaction in it. Him talking after that playoff series, like, I do this, I do that, I defend, I pass. How much did Young score? Blah blah blah. There's a satisfaction there. This is what he does. This is my role. Why do I need to step beyond this? And there doesn't seem to be a strong agreement, whether it was Brett Brown or whether it was Doc, for who he's going to be and what's going to maximize his abilities there. What drove me crazy is and I know a lot of other people don't care about this, is they wouldn't play for Australia. Go out after you just had this terrible postseason, go against competition where you're going to be one of the most dominant forces out there and just kill it. Go hit your free throws, go take some shots, just play free with Australia. You got nothing to lose. There's no expectations. But he just didn't do it. And it's not all that apparent why he didn't do it. And he didn't do it the World Cup before that. And
I don't think he likes the guy. Like I remember hearing that he was, they used to call him Yank and stuff like that when he was younger. But like, come on, you have an opportunity to represent your country in the Olympics, and look what happens to all the American players that go. They get better just from being around that greatness, being around.
I could have seen it with Simmons for sure. What if they beat the U.S.? That would have changed the whole conversation around him, even if it was in a scrimmage like Nigeria did. They had the bodies. Patty Mills was out there killing it. Yeah, Baines had that unfortunate injury, but they were rolling out there. They pushed the U.S. pretty hard, I thought, in that game too. I think, if I remember correctly, but. I don't know. There just doesn't seem to be this burning desire in him. If I'm a team taking him back, I wouldn't be all that excited about the upside here. Hell, we kicked it around on the Celtics. Would you do it? Would you even think about doing it? Even if it was Marcus Smart and it was possible. Like, I'm a no. Like, Marcus Smart's the juxtaposition in terms of how you approach the game. He's the complete opposite end of the spectrum with the shooting there, but you'd rather have a guy who's fearless, who attacks that moment and doesn't care, than a guy who's just so hyper hesitant in that moment. The thing I'm excited for that's been underrated in this, one day he's gonna get traded, he's gonna be on another team, he's gonna come back to Philly, and man, Embiid with Simmons guarding him is just gonna absolutely destroy him. That's gonna be fun to watch. And I feel bad for Embiid because Embiid has done everything. He's sacrificed. He's adjusted his game to fit Simmons. He was the MVP, I thought, last year, frankly.
Yeah, he got hurt. I think he would have won it if he didn't miss all those games. But
now it's going to get even harder for him.
Yeah, but I think Joel's going to be fine. He's the franchise, he's the team, and that's why they're not just going to throw away Ben for a piece that's not going to help them contend like now. It's not about picks because Joel, you have to treat him as somebody who's in the heart of his prime, and it's not as going to be as long a prime as most players because of his injury history and the position he plays. So
he played with that scary injury last summer.
I think you really got to try to maximize what you're doing with this team right now. And look, they've done it. They did it last year. They got veterans. They got Seth Curry. They got Danny Green. I believe that they'll be able to find something like that. But even someone like, as much as I love Tyrese Halliburton, is he ready? Is he ready to be in the playoffs? I think he is because he just seems like
he'd be great for that team.
Just so smart and so just doesn't care about his stats. Just is really just making the right play here and there. So, but that's a question, and but someone like Buddy Hield, like I really do think the Kings are probably the most likely, but who knows with Daryl Morey? I mean, he's made some crazy trades.
I'm just like, isn't it in your head? Like you're just looking at Twitter and you're like, when's that tweet gonna drop? Like I can't wait to see what it looks like because it's
my 9-year-old asks me every single morning. She's like, is Ben Simmons still on the Sixers? And I'm like, yeah, honey. If when he gets traded, I'll wake you up.
All right,
I'm gonna come into your room and shake you. So
three rapid fire questions before we send you out of here. Do you think this happens this weekend? This into the regular season, All-Star break? Like, when does your gut tell you this is going to happen?
I think it'll be in the next couple of weeks. Whether because it's going to be a distraction, and we'll see what happens with other teams. I think the Sixers are ready to move. He's ready to move, but they're just waiting for another team. Daryl's playing hardball with other GMs. I think the longer he goes, I don't know if it helps his stance or not. But my guess would be it would be, if not before the season, in the first month of the season.
Sacramento, that's the one you're settling on? Hield, Halliburton, you think that's ultimately it?
Yeah, I guess because I don't want anything to do with D'Angelo Russell from Minnesota. If you want to give me Edwards, sure. But they're not going to do that.
Not happening.
Karl-Anthony Towns, even though he'd be a terrible fit with Joel, but you don't need him. But it may be a 3-team deal. I would love to send Ben to Cleveland just to spite him, but I don't think there's a fit there unless they want to give us Garland. And even someone like Garland, I don't know if he would be ready again. Like, is he ready to be a stud in the playoffs?
They love him. They love him. I don't even know if they would have given up. Who's the guy they just traded? Larry Nance for him.
Oh, right.
Like Cleveland loves their players. They haven't made many moves in recent years just because how much they love these guys.
I mean, Ben,
Toronto.
at the end of the day, Ben is really good. He's a really good basketball player. He's just.
You want Kevin Love?
No, thanks.
Oh, geez, this is like becoming salary dump territory. I'm going Toronto. Let's do that Siakam Simmons swap. That's the one I want to see. Where will Philly finish in the East this year when this is all done?
So it could be a disaster just with all the off court stuff, but I think they'll. It could also be a rallying point. I think they'll. Excuse me. I think they'll be top 3 in the East.
All right, number 3 behind Brooklyn, Milwaukee, and then will Embiid, Philly, win a ring?
Embiid in Philly?
Yep. Will they get one?
Sure hope so. They're going to try really hard until he retires. Yeah, I think they will. He's really good. He's a clutch player. All the on-off stuff in the playoffs, except for that Celtics series where they got swept because when Ben was out in the bubble. But, I mean, every other playoff series, you just look, the on-offs, they're like plus 90 with him on the court. They're minus 90 or minus 100 with him off the court.
He's the last guy left. It was Giannis. Now I think it's him who's in that up because Davis got his in that upper echelon of the league who just hasn't broken through. He's been close.
Harden, I would say too. Harden, but he's probably going to get this year.
That's true. I guess Russ to some degree. But I'm just thinking of like these because Harden's never been a top 3 player, has he?
You could argue a couple years ago. Well, I mean,
they're in the height of his
2 years ago, he was the most unstoppable offensive player like since Jordan, maybe even as good as Jordan was. I mean, his step backs and just the way they had the whole team built around him.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is like these larger than life figures, like actually like big guys, LeBron, like Giannis, those types, Davis, who just command this massive presence on the court, who just consume the whole game. Like Embiid, everything goes through him. He dominates. He's physically unstoppable. Everything's there. He has everything he needs. He was the MVP last year, like I said, before the injuries. Everything's there for him to become that champion. And just all this different stuff going on around him has made it elude him. So I hope at some point he's finally able to break through with that.
I want Dame. Oh, give me Dame and Joel. Whew.
The SI list had him, 7th, or the ESPN list, rather, that they put out this week. He was too low to me. If I'm thinking top 10 players in the league, Embiid's like, he was second in MVP race. I think he's second, third, fourth. He's right up there because KD and Giannis are probably 1 and 2. I'd rather have him than LeBron right now.
I don't know. I can't put him ahead of LeBron, and I think Steph was so awesome last year too. And I think you make an argument with Harden that he could be over Harden. Jokic is the one that everyone
take him over Jokic with the defense.
Yeah, I would too. Jokic is a great offensive player. Was phenomenal last year, but I think the fact that Embiid could, if he was asked to, if the team needed him to be defensive player there, he would be. I have no doubt about that. Thankfully, they don't ask him to do that because he's crazy. And his rookie year, I mean, Jesus, he flung his body at people and made some incredible blocks. But he said, look, he put the league on notice and said, just if you come in the paint, I'm going to embarrass you. So, he kind of lives off that reputation now, and he can still defend. So, and just he's another one of those guys like Zion, where you give him the ball inside it, it's going in. I mean, there's really nothing you can do. And
his shot now is
he's going to get fouled, and he's going to make his free throws.
His shot too from every level. The 3-pointers there, the mid-ranger, the command he had over that mid-range spot.
Softball. It's a beautiful thing to watch. I
love Joel Embiid.
I watch him and I can't. My wife gets so annoyed at me because I'm just like, oh, he's so good. Like, oh, every time I'm just like, I can't help it. I can't believe there's a player. Like I always told people, like he just seems like a great. Like you took like a guard like Kobe or Michael Jordan in NBA 2K and you just made them bigger. And he does those things and the graphics don't really look right because he's so big and they're kind of weird. Like the animations are weird, but like it's just silky smooth when it goes in. Oh, I love him.
Real quick, to satisfy Celtics viewers, what do you think of what they did? Horford's back. That's big in the Embiid matchup, obviously. They look pretty good. When everything kind of settled into place before Summer League, I said this team's probably a borderline playoff team. I could see them missing the playoffs. And then when Schroeder came in, I actually turned my head and said, all right, they got that guard that they need right now with Kemba going out. I love Horford coming back in. I don't like Richardson, and it goes back to what I saw from him in Philadelphia and even in Dallas last year. I don't think he's a great player, but he can defend. So I think they made the best of what they had there. It's just going to come down again, the internal improvement, Smart, the young guys, Tatum, Brown.
Neesmith, I think Neesmith's key. He's a real X factor. The health of Robert Williams is massive, but they got depth. They have Horford, and
I'm
they brought
so
Cantor
excited to
back.
watch Rob.
And I think Richardson was miscast in Philly, and he was miscast in Dallas as well. Like he's a good guy off the bench, and you have to bank for him to miss a third of the season with injuries. He will. He always does. This was an issue in Miami, but he'll win you some games. He absolutely will. Schroeder, contract year, that could go wrong. It could definitely go wrong, but I don't think it will because Ime seems like he's got a presence. I'm excited
Schroeder
to see
seems
what he
excited to
does.
be here, too, just off the post. Not
Yeah,
thrilled about the numbers, I'm sure, but it does seem like this is where he wanted to be.
right. And look, he's only going to improve his stock the better, team. He doesn't have to score 20 points to get a big contract. He just has to, fit in, help them win games. And I think they will. I think the fact that they're kind of coming in a little bit under the radar, less expectations in the previous regime with Brad and Danny, that was when they always were in the conference championship. It's their, they always exceed expectations unless they're really high. And I think that this year they're lower. I think, I was a little bit worried about Jalen, not having a summer because of his wrist injury. But, I mean, I've seen videos of him shooting and everything. It looks great. And so I'm just expecting another leap from him. Tatum won a gold, the Olympics. I think that's going to motivate Marcus and Jalen as well as Tatum's going to get a boost from hanging out with Durant and all those guys. And I think they're going to be
Getting
good.
jacked.
Right.
All right. He is Max Lederman. You're going to see him on NBC Sports Boston as their Celtics program gets going on Monday with Media Day and then into the preseason. Anything to look forward to in terms of stuff you got planned this year? The broadcast team, just like how it's all going to come together this year, the Celtics coverage?
I think they're still finalizing the broadcast team. It should be pretty similar, but I don't know what's public out there, but I don't think anybody's going to be upset or anything. I think it's going to be great. And, we got celebrate Mike Gorman, getting into the Hall of Fame, the 75th anniversary of the league and the Celtics. And, there's going to be a lot of stuff on that. So that'll be fun. I think the great thing about Celtics fans is that there's such a wide range. There's the young ones, that are more about the more recent team. I think the heart of the fan base is the 08, lifers who will still fight me on Twitter.
I got nailed on Twitter for saying Horford was my favorite Celtic. It was like, what are you talking about? But they were throwing stuff at me. It was bad.
Right. There's Pierce truthers, Rondo truthers still out there. And then you've got the old school ones who, saw the 80s team, the 70s team, still some people
Some
that
saw
were around
the 60s.
for running the 60s. So, I mean, that's a great mix of fan bases. And I think there's going to be something for everyone this year. It's going to be a great celebration of the franchise. And I'm excited. I'm really ready for basketball. Last year, the offseason was too short. The pandemic, everything was kind of bad and sad. And we still didn't really know if we should be playing games or not, but they were, and a little bit worried. So I wasn't as excited for the season as I am this year, but like I'm back to where I normally am, where I'm just like, I'm craving it. And I'm just really jacked.
You see that NFL ratings bounce too, and you can just already picture the monstrous interest in the NBA when this comes around, and just how many teams are going to be in contention too. So Max Lederman, we'll talk to him again during the year. Always an awesome conversation when he's around on Philly and everything else going on around the Celtics. Thanks, Max.
Thanks for having me on, Bobby.